Hi there. The spiritual attribute that I'm going to talk about today is the will to good. Just about says it all, doesn't it? You have free will. You can make choices. So, as a spiritual person, a committed, growing and evolving spiritual person, at some stage, you make the free will choice to always work towards the good, for the good, basically following right action. Now, you hear people talk about goodwill, and goodwill is close to it, but not quite. Often goodwill is feelings towards goodwill to others. A lot of charities are considered goodwill organisations, and they do good work, and they're actively doing something. So we can say that goodwill is an aspect of the will to good. But with these spiritual attributes, we're looking at taking things to their highest level that we can as human beings, as souls, having the human experience. So the spiritual attribute is the will to good. So we have to look at our will. Are we weak-willed? Are we strong-willed? Do we try to impose our will upon others at all costs? Is even imposing our will on others at any time right action? I'm not going to necessarily answer those questions, but they are things that, as a spiritual person, we should consider. And we should consider it on and off too, because as we grow and evolve, we find ourselves in different life situations where we make different choices, free will choices. Sometimes we are in a position where we have to make choices for other people because they're not able to. We really need the will to good to be active for us then. If we are in a position of having to make decisions for other people, we have to make sure that those decisions are in the best interest and for the highest good of those people. A lot of people go through life and don't think about it. They just think about their own free will. And we promote a lot of that today in modern society. People's freedom to express themselves in any way they want to. Freedom of speech, freedom of how we dress, freedom of how we act. Obviously, we do have our criminal justice system, which keeps some of that freedom to act within the bounds of keeping people safe. And of course, we need that. So what I'm talking about here is our decisions to act as we want. The average person doesn't always consider how their actions will affect others. Somebody who has a developing will to good will often pull themselves up and do a bit of a check about what I'm going to do or what I am doing. I'm really enjoying that. It's really great. I think it's good for me, but how is it affecting other people? Am I hurting anyone? Now, we could get into a really in-depth discussion here, because there are times when sometimes you have to put yourself first, and if another person's feelings are hurt in the short term, it may have to happen. But someone with the will to good would feel compassion for that person. They would not want to hurt them. They would not be happy about hurting them. They would be hurt in some way themselves because they've hurt someone else. Now, this is the human condition, isn't it, that I've just described? I think everybody listening to this has found themselves in that situation. Or you may have been on the receiving end. You may have been the person who was hurt. Often when we are the person who was hurt, we get very angry and we feel victimised, rightly or wrongly, depending on the situation. Sometimes it's really hard to get over, and we carry that for a long time. But if we think about the will to good in something like this, and not so much our exercise of it, but if we can look at the other person and think, oh, did they do that simply because they're cruel, because they could, for no good reason? And that, if you come to that, if that turns out to be the truth of the matter, then okay, you know what you're dealing with there with your feelings and emotions. But if you can use a little bit of dispassion and detach a little bit and look into the reasoning behind what the person has done that has hurt you, you may see that that person was just being honest with themselves and now with you. That they had to cause you hurt in the short term, because if they hadn't, it would have caused hurt to themselves and then eventually to you, because it would have changed their behaviour. The way they thought about you even would have changed to become resentment, which, if you can imagine it, and I don't want you to spend too much time imagining such things because it's not pleasant, and we shouldn't be spending time imagining unpleasant things. We have enough unpleasant things happening that we do have to look at. So I don't want anybody to be going off, thinking about unpleasant things. But I'm just trying to give you this angle of looking at somebody else's activity, and maybe you might actually be able to see the will to good active in their decision that they made that has caused you or someone else some hurt. There will be times, of course, probably a lot of times, when you can't find it. But that's part of your learning, isn't it? You're using discernment. You're not just assuming things and jumping to conclusions, but you're casting the light of your mind into situations. And you have another tool now, this thing called will to good. You didn't have that before. And now you can measure something up against it. It's another thing that you can measure situations up against. And it will help you. Because if you can see that that person actually did act to the best of their ability using the will to good, it should change your feelings. It's probably not going to take away the hurt, but it may allow you to move through it more quickly, to be able to put it behind you more quickly. It may stop you asking the endless question, why? It may allow forgiveness to start. So that's an aspect. But when we bring it back to your own personal will, because this is where we look at that, the will to good. There it is, will. Your free will to good. We could put it, but we don't need to. Human beings have a very strong will. We as spiritual people must learn how to use our will for good. That's the bottom line. Truly spiritual people are good people at their core. You will see some people who pay lip service to spirituality. They say all of the right things at the right times, but you may get a window, a little glimpse through a window into their lives and see that they are not really good people. Perhaps they don't even know they're not. And that's sad, isn't it? That's something to think about. You can't get away without thinking deeply about things when you're growing spiritually. It's not about developing psychic abilities. It's not about praying to a god or a goddess or a supreme being or the universe or whatever. It's not about worship. It's about growing and evolving and becoming the very best person you can be. It's about observing others, forming opinions or judgments without judging. There's one for you. Think about that one. Forming judgments or making judgments about people or situations without sitting in judgment. Very fine line. Perhaps our language lets us down, the English language. Maybe there are other languages that I only know English. But it'd be nice to think that perhaps there were two different words for what I'm using the one word of judgment for. But at this point, I'm just seeing two sides of one word, and I'm wanting to show you that there are two sides to that word too. And there is a degree of judgment, perhaps we might like to call it discernment, which is one of our spiritual attributes. And maybe discernment is the better word than judgment. Sometimes in just talking about things like this, we come around to answering a question. And my question was, is there a better word that I'm trying to find? And maybe it was there all along in a spiritual attribute of discernment. I haven't done a video on discernment yet, but I will. There'll be 49 videos when I'm finished. And hopefully you'll be able to get something out of each one of them and take them on an even deeper journey, a deep personal journey, which is what I have done over the last several decades. And the more you do it, the more your consciousness expands. So I just want to leave you with the words, will to good. And I've spoken about discipline before, and this is where discipline comes in again, because that word willpower that we use, sometimes we have to really bring in that willpower in order to stick to something that we know is the right course of action. So it's good to develop willpower if you don't have it, but just always keep in mind that you want your will to become strong towards the good. Thank you for listening to me.